Surprise! It's Two Chicks, One Book Plug Tuesday.
We're dropping in early to shine a little spotlight on a book you should absolutely know about.
Today we're giving some well-deserved love to an author who deserves a spot on your shelf.
You know the drill. Fangirling, chaos, and probably a fictional crush or two.
Let's get plot twisty! Hey everyone, and welcome back to Two Chicks and a Plot Twist.
Today's episode is extra exciting because we're covering our book plug of the week, a southern set political drama that seriously kept us flipping pages late into the night.
We're talking about The Carrington Affairs by Susan Gooch, a gripping story about power, scandal, and the secrets we bury, set right in the small town of Searcy, Arkansas.
The book follows Bennett Carrington, a once promising senator whose world fell apart in a very public way. 11 years later, he's trying to rebuild his career. But to do that, he'll have to reckon with the two women who knew the truth all along.
And while Susan isn't with us in person, she did send us some exclusive voice notes answering a few questions we had for her. So you'll get to hear her thoughts straight from the source.
So whether you're into politics, romance, or just a good old Southern scandal, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it. So, yes, the full title of this one is called The Carrington Affairs by, like we said, Susan Gooch. It was published March of 2024. Michaela, do you want to hit us with a little summary?
Of course. So a little bit about the book, guys. Bennett Carrington had it all. A rising political career, charm, and a fast track to the White House. But in the summer of 2012, everything came crashing down. After a scandal forced him to resign, he was left with nothing. No career, no marriage, and no clear way forward. Now, over a decade later, Bennett's back in his hometown of Searcy, Arkansas, with one final shot at redemption. But if he wants to rebuild his political image, he'll need help from the two women he hurt most, Taylor and Poppy, both of whom carry secrets of their own. Set in a small southern town where everyone knows your business, The Carrington Affairs is a layered story about ambition, betrayal, and the lies we tell to protect ourselves, and sometimes each other. If you love stories with emotional tension, political intrigue, and slow-burning drama, this one's for you.
Oh, that summary just sounds so good, guys. Here is just a little snippet about the author. So, Susan Gooch, author of The Carrington Affairs, is a lover of romance in history in any form, be it a book, movie, or real life. A passionate educator, she has spent over 20 years cultivating a love of reading and writing in children. Married to her high school sweetheart, she's a mother, a Mimi, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and the life of every party she has ever attended. A small-town girl who has lived all over the world, she is a true homebody. Her favorite place is at home in her pajamas, curled up with a good book. She's our type of gal.
Yes! Right up our alley. And some themes of this book, we got truth versus reputation, love versus loyalty, and power versus integrity, and emotional and reflective themes. So we also have a bit of the prologue, guys, and we'd love to read you a quick little sample. Prologue, Searcy, Arkansas, July 12th, 2012. The moment the black SUV pulled up to the gates of the Carrington estate, reporters rushed forward with microphones in hand and cameras rolling. Senator Carrington, is it true? Are you and Miss Carrington separated? Are you getting divorced? How do you know Poppy Thompson? And what is the nature of your relationship with her? Are you still on the short list for a possible cabinet position? Questions flew at the car's passengers from every direction. It should have been the impossible to hear one over the other, but it wasn't. Each one was a rock pinging off the side of the car. Jules had warned them about the media circus, camped outside their home for the last few hours. Honestly, neither was shocked at the reporters waiting to devour them. In truth, it had been a long time coming. If they were surprised by anything, it was how long it had taken them to sniff out the story. To help control the situation, Jules had arranged for 2 security guards to do crowd control. At the moment, it did not feel very controlled. Bennett and Taylor stared straight ahead. Their lack of response did nothing to deter the horde of journalists who continued their verbal assault. Rapidly firing questions at the couple, the various news crews jockeyed for the best camera angle. Each knew they were sitting on the juiciest political scandal in years. The 2 security guards finally forced the crowd back just enough for Bennett to pull through the gates and drive up the winding drive to the house. Bennett and Taylor did not say a word until they were inside the garage, with the large wooden door closed firmly behind them. Taylor could already see the sound bites in her head that would soon be playing on every news channel in the country. Dishing dirt on Arkansas's political golden couple would sell well. She supposed she would be grateful the questions weren't worse. They certainly could have been. Right now, the reporters just had a whiff of a scandal. Little did they know the truth was even more shocking than any of them yet suspected. It was all going to come out. At best, they had a day, 2 at the most, before everybody knew all the gritty, dirty details of their crumbling lives. Bennett looked over at Taylor, and with his voice full of anguish and shame, he said, "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. The last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt you." Nodding her head in agreement, Taylor, feeling overwhelmed and stunned, answered, "I know. Me either." There had been a time where she would have blamed all of this on him and his dirty little secrets, but that was before she had her own secrets. They were both responsible for the dumpster fire their lives had become. Giving him a look of utter despair, she asked, "What in the hell are we going to do now?" Shaking his head, Bennett said, "I have no idea." For a man who always had an answer for everything, this time, he had nothing. Taylor sighed deeply and said, "Me either. But one thing I do know, it will get a lot worse before it gets better."
24 hours later, Searcy Municipal Airport, Searcy, Arkansas. Bennett Carrington sat inside a hangar at the airport in Searcy, watching his wife Taylor fly away with her fiancé Greer, and thinking about how his life had basically imploded in the last 48 hours. Sitting inside the borrowed 3 Series BMW, he realized his life had become a shit show. In February, he had the world on a string. As the junior senator from Arkansas, his approval ratings were through the roof. A happily married man with a reputation for being an outstanding family man, he was a leading contender for the vice presidential spot on Larry Anderson's presidential campaign. He and his beautiful wife Taylor were excited to begin and trying again for a child. The doctors had given them every hope they would be successful this time. He had life by the tail, and he knew it. What a difference 5 months could make. During that time, he had seen his marriage crumble, destroyed his political career and reputation, and lost the love of his life to gossip and innuendo. As he sat alone in the car, Bennett realized he had truly hit rock bottom. Making up his mind to start reclaiming his life, he fired up the car's engine and roared off with one goal in mind, putting his life back together again, one piece at a time. Okay guys, I have to say, I absolutely loved the Carrington Affairs. It was so suspenseful and really character driven, which is my favorite kind of book. I found myself constantly trying to figure out who was trying to keep what secret and what was going to blow up next.
Yeah, I definitely can say I was really hooked from the beginning. I don't normally read modern day anything, but this one kept me going, and the pacing, it was pretty phenomenal, to say the least. It was not really dull anywhere, you know,
Right.
and that's my honest review. It just kept rolling, and the small town setting in Arkansas made everything feel even more intense. I mean, I have little connections to Arkansas. That's where we would go for vacation when I was a kid, so it was really fun just to be like, oh, we're back in little Arkansas, okay.
Right? And I loved how the story was built around relationships. Bennett, Taylor, and Poppy, they all as characters felt really fleshed out and layered. And I loved how the story was built around relationships. Bennett, Taylor, and Poppy, they as characters felt really fleshed out and layered.
Yeah, it really didn't feel like your typical political drama that you see on TV all the time. At least that's where I get my political drama intrigue. But now that I'm finally reading it, I'm like, oh, maybe I should read more of this. So it was very personal and very emotional, and it really managed to keep us guessing the whole time. So there was never a point where I was just like in the blank, like, what is going on? But I always had hints here and there to like fill me in, like, okay, I have my sneaking suspicions, but I really liked it.
Yeah, and guys, if you're into stories with secret, scandal, and strong emotional arcs, the Carrington Affairs has to be on your TBR list.
Yes, I highly recommend. You'll definitely be hooked.
Okay, guys, we are going to read a little, I was going to say quick little 5-star read, but Jesus Christ.
I pulled 2 5-star reviews from Goodreads, you guys. This book on Goodreads has over 70 reviews total. So this indie author is really doing a great job Go, Susan. You're amazing. But these reviews have so much to say, and so many of them are 5-star reviews, so we picked 2, and we're going to read them to you because of how phenomenal they are, and they get the message across so well. So this first 5-star review, it goes, "The Carrington Affairs is an emotionally rich, character-driven novel that skillfully weaves together themes of political downfall, personal redemption, and the tangled complexities of love. At the center of the story is Bennett Carrington, a once rising political star whose promising future was abruptly derailed by scandal. In 2012, Bennett stood on the cusp of national prominence as a junior senator from Arkansas, being considered for a vice presidential nomination. But a series of events shattered that trajectory, leaving him with a ruined career, a broken marriage, and a heart heavy with regret. 11 years later, Bennett finds himself staring down a second chance, an opportunity to reclaim his life in the political arena. But redemption comes at a price. To clear his name and return to public life, he must revisit the painful past and persuade the 2 women who knew him best, Taylor and Poppy, to come forward with truths they've hidden for over a decade. What unfolds is a riveting exploration of how secrets, once buried, have the power to heal or destroy, depending on how they are brought into the light." Susan's portrayal of the town Searcy, Arkansas, adds a rich layer to the narrative. The small town setting brims with southern charm and quiet whispers of long-held secrets, serving as both a comforting backdrop and a crucible for the emotional reckoning that takes place. The town itself becomes a character, holding memories, judgments, and a kind of stillness that contrasts with the emotional turbulence of Bennett's journey. The narrative is grounded in authenticity, with well-drawn characters who feel as flawed and real as the challenges they face. Bennett is more than a fallen politician. He is a man grappling with identity, consequence, and the desire to make peace with his past. Taylor and Poppy are equally compelling, offering perspectives that challenge the reader to consider the weight of truth and the courage it takes to speak it. The Carrington Affairs is not your typical political drama, nor your standard romance. It lives in the gray spaces, where love is complicated, ambition is double-edged, and redemption is earned through vulnerability. Susan's writing has a narrative pace that keeps the reader engaged while allowing space for emotional depth and reflection. In all, this is a powerful story about second chances, the complexity of relationships, and the resilience of the human spirit. Susan has penned a thought-provoking novel that blends romance, politics, and a small-town intrigue into a compelling, unforgettable read. The Carrington Affairs will resonate with readers who appreciate stories that explore, not just love, but the difficult paths we often take to find our way back to it. I think I said that wrong.
Wow, that was a crazy review. That was so long.
That was a crazy long review,
gosh.
but it was so good, and they said all the right things about this book. So
Right.
I agree. I'm like 5 stars. Let's get the gold sticker. Let's stick it on it. But yes, there are so many reviews for this book.
So guys, we're gonna read just one more 5-star review, and then we will get into all of Susan's voice notes to all the questions that we had. But this review is: "The Carrington Affairs is a gripping and emotionally layered tale of political downfall, personal redemption, and the secrets that never quite stay buried. With sharp storytelling and an engaging narrative voice, Susan explores the consequences of ambition, the fragility of public trust, and the deeply personal costs of political life. At the center of the novel is Bennett Carrington, a once rising political star who, in the spring of 2012, seemed poised to become America's next vice president. But by midsummer, his world had collapsed. His career shattered, his marriage over, and his heart broken. What followed was over a decade in the political wilderness until an unexpected opportunity brings him back to the small town of Searcy, Arkansas, and into the orbit of 2 women from his past, Taylor and Poppy. The strength of this novel lies in its rich character development and the way Susan peels back the layers of each protagonist's story. Taylor and Poppy are more than just figures in Bennett's past. They are strong, complex women with secrets of their own. Susan does an excellent job of shifting perspectives and revealing their motivations, allowing readers to wrestle with questions of loyalty, love, betrayal, and truth. Set against the backdrop of small-town Southern charm and national political intrigue, the Carrington Affairs manages to feel both intimate and high stakes. The tension is built not through sensationalism, but through emotional honesty and the slow, deliberate unraveling of personal histories that were never quite finished. This is the story about second chances, but it doesn't offer them easily. Susan forces her characters and her readers to confront uncomfortable truths and the reality that healing sometimes requires revisiting the very pain we try to bury. Small, nuanced, and timely, The Carrington Affairs is a must-read for fans of contemporary political drama with a strong emotional core. It's a reminder that what's hidden beneath the surface often has the greatest power to shape our futures. So good.
Round of applause.
Yay, Susan.
Ah.
And I don't know if you saw, but Susan also did an interview with Bookster, and we did an interview with Bookster a couple months ago. So guys, go check that out. It's on Bookster's website, and that is like the biggest platform for book lovers around the world. Yeah, we love Bookster.
Oh my
Yay,
God.
Bookster.
That's so awesome. Yeah, small world to be both
I
featured.
know.
Now we have some questions for Susan that we sent in and she sent back. So we have some great answers from her and we're going to go ahead and give them a listen.
What inspired you to write The Carrington Affairs? Was there a specific political scandal or personal story that sparked the idea?
Honestly, I was not inspired to write this book by any political scandal or anything I read in the news. The truth is, the story came to me. That's how all of my books happen. I was actually in my classroom. I was giving a test, and I couldn't talk, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't do anything but watch the children test. And these people started talking in my head. And it was Taylor and Bennett. And Taylor was telling about the scandal and how it was affecting her. And she was running out of the country club. And I came home and I started writing down everything I was thinking. And that's what inspired the story. It just popped in my head.
You're from Arkansas and the novel is set in Searcy. What made you choose this town specifically and how did your personal connection to the area shape the story?
I am from Arkansas, but I was not born here. I moved here 25 years ago, and I love my little town. This little town is, without doubt, the best place in the world to raise your family and to live and to grow up. My children had lived all over the world once we got here. We'd lived in Dallas, we'd lived in Memphis, we'd lived in London, and coming to this little town, it was just everything we were looking for. Great schools, great community, just a heartfelt place. And many of the characters in the book, you're going to find out, while this story is out of my head, there's no doubt I have drawn from many of the characters that are in this town. For example, my neighbor is one of the former governors of Arkansas. We were here when he was running and was governor. We have very wealthy people here. We have people from all social backgrounds. We're very diverse. And so for a small little community, we have 2 colleges, about 25,000 people, and I love my little town. It's got art and culture, and I just love highlighting it and writing about it.
Did you do any research into real-life politics or scandals while writing this book?
I'm going to be honest. I really didn't do any research about politics when I wrote this book. Truthfully, like I said earlier, the whole story just pops in my head. And I don't write the first word until I know exactly what's going to happen in a book. And so what happened with this book, 12 years before, I get the story going. And when I originally did it, I thought it was going to be 2 books. I thought it was going to be Taylor and Gru's story, and it was going to be Poppy and Bennett's story. And so I just wrote Taylor and Gru's story. It took me about 3 months. That's all I did for 3 months of the summer break. And by the time the summer was over, I was sick to death of hearing them. I just put the book on a shelf and I didn't deal with it for about 10 years. 10 years later, I'm in an airport. I'm stuck. I have nothing to read. I keep downloading books that I really can't stand. And I said to my friend, I wrote a book that was better than all this mess I'm trying to read. And she looked at me and she said, "You wrote a book?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, can I read it?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't even have that computer anymore." And then I remembered that I had sent it to my friend on her email. And I literally texted her and said, "Can you send me a copy of that email that I sent you 12 years ago that had all the book in it?" She sends it to us. We share it. We're sitting in the airport. We're reading this first rough draft of the book. And my friends all go, "Suze, this is good. You got something. You got to work with it." But I'm not stupid, okay? It's 2023 at this point. How can I sell a book about a political scandal before the social media eruption that happened between 2012 and 2023. I mean, it just couldn't happen the way it did. So I had to sit down and think about it. It took me about 6 months to figure out, oh, wow, what if he's resurrected? What if I make, the second part of the book, him becoming governor and them telling their story, and I get to interview them. And I had just read Daisy Jones and the Six, and I went, oh my gosh, this book is now Sweet Home Alabama meets Daisy Jones and the Six. And I knew exactly what I wanted to write. I took about 4 days to just think about it. And I sat down and I wrote out, and this is how I write. I write all the scenes that are going to happen in the book, all of them. And so then when I start to write, I just go scene by scene by scene. And many people say that my books read like movies for that reason, maybe. But because of that, this sounds crazy, but I didn't have a single scene that was difficult to write. It just all flew out. So I was very lucky in that. And so that is kind of my writing process. And that is sort of how the whole book came about.
Bennett Carrington is a deeply flawed yet compelling character. How did you balance his ambition with his personal downfall?
It's interesting that people, when they first read the blurb, they feel like that Bennett Carrington is sort of this flawed, bad person. Well, the truth is we're all flawed. There's no perfect people. But truthfully, if you read the whole book, you find out that even though Bennett had to resign in disgrace, even though there's the suspicion of a love child and a mistress, the truth of the matter is he's sort of a savior character. He takes the fall, but none of this is actually his fault. I love very strong women, and to be a strong woman, you have to own your mistakes. And that's what this book is about. Poppy's made mistakes. Taylor made mistakes. They have to publicly admit and own their mistakes. And in doing so, they exonerate Bennett. He didn't really do anything to deserve what he got. So in that sense, he's a Christ character. And by the end of the book, when he is becoming governor and he's able to go for that and restart his career, it's as if he's risen, if you will. So very much a Christ character. And I hope you read the book, and I hope you see some of those similarities in Bennett, because what we perceive from media is maybe not always the way things really are.
When can readers expect your next book?
The next book. Okay, well, here it is. It's coming out in September. It's called The Non-Negotiable. And if you read the first book, it's about their son, Poppy and Bennett's son, Ben, and his wife, girlfriend and wife later, Ella Santiago. Now, the book will open in the fall of 2023, and it's really more of a companion piece. It's not a follow-up piece. It's a companion piece because it's happening. The events in The Non-Negotiable are happening alongside what was happening in the Carrington Affairs, and there is a little crossover at Thanksgiving in both books. And so it's the story of them, how they meet, what happens to them. And, the first book is all about affairs and things that happen to people or marriages breaking up. And the second book is about what does it take to make a marriage work? What does it take to make it stay together? And that was really influenced by myself. I married at a very young age. I had a child at very young, and I've been married now 38 years. And I can tell you, it takes a lot of sacrifice and a lot of commitments, and you got to hold to your non-negotiables. And that's what that book is about. It's coming out in September. Keep an eye out for you. I can't wait for you to see it.
Okay, guys, and you can buy Susan's book, The Carrington Affairs, on Amazon, at susangooch.com, Barnes & Noble, select indie bookstores, and as an audiobook on Audible. It's available, it's worth the buy, it's worth the read. It was so fun to finally dive in to this political drama because it's something I haven't done before, and it's a good book if it's your first one, just like me, to dive into. It was really interesting, and I can see myself reading more now that I read this one.
Right,
I'm like, I've been missing out on this the whole time. Okay. So, bye-bye, fantasy-only McKaylee. Here we go, political drama. I'll be coming up next episode with all my political insight. I'm going to be an FBI agent in a few years.
Guys, well, that wraps up our deep dive into The Carrington Affairs by Susan Gooch, a story full of secrets, redemption, and Southern charm that we will not be forgetting anytime soon.
Huge thank you to Susan Gooch for trusting us with your story. We're so grateful you chose our platform to help share the Carrington Affairs with new readers, and it has been such an honor getting to explore this world you created.
We also want to thank Susan for sending in those voice notes and letting us hear directly from the mind behind the book. It added such a special layer to today's conversation.
If you haven't picked up the Carrington Affairs yet, now's the time. Trust us, you'll be hooked from page 1.
Thanks, guys, for listening to Two Chicks and a Plot Twist. We'll be back Thursday with another episode.
Bye!